No, we haven't.
So what did it feel like, Marco, when your movie suddenly was your baby, your pride and joy? You suddenly saw it for the first time on a big screen, Legacy of Lies.
It was a surreal moment because that film was like 7 years in the making, and I was there every step of the way. And I had to literally run through walls to get that thing off the ground. I think it's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Because financing a film is so difficult, and there are so many moving parts in it. And you've got, one half of it is you haven't got an A-list actor, so they're not going to attract funds. You haven't got locations, you haven't got the right crew. You need $1 zillion to get started, a lot of things. So to see it on the screen, it was very satisfying, that. Because I thought it would never happen so many times,
And is it about your life story in some way?
Well, it's a fictional story.
It's a fictional thing, yeah.
Yeah, but the making of it was really a film in itself, because the original narrative of the story was based on a true story, and it was based on a true story of how the Russians bombed a apartment building in Kiev and killed 300 families, because the wife of the film director is a Ukrainian. So that was the story, and we did all the PR for it. And as you'll see on the interview when we do in a minute, basically, I was threatened by the Russian Secret Service.
Wow. Sorry to cut in for a moment. Amira, can you just check the Facebook feed now?
Yeah, I just did. No, it's still not live.
You sure?
Positive. Let me refresh.
Yeah, you can refresh.
It wasn't 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, it's still not live, Rupert.
Good. Okay.
And was that threat then while you were making the film, Marco? I wasn't sure if that was
it was
an early experience in your life or
production, and they sent a Russian spy to see me, who happened to be a woman. So I'm sure you've seen James Bond movies where
they're always attractive, aren't they?
A beautiful Russian agent.
Yeah. Yes.
So this was like real life. I tell you now, real life is scary and more interesting than films. So this girl was chatting to me on Instagram for about a year, mate, and the most stunning, beautiful woman you've ever seen in your life. So she said, "Would you like to?" She didn't tell me she was a Russian agent, of course. So she came to see me in Malaysia, and she stayed with me, all that kind of stuff. And one day she said, "I don't think you should make that film." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I don't think you should make that film in a Russian accent, because if you do, I don't think you're going to live very long."
Ooh.
And she says, "I'm not who I say I am. I'm actually working for Russian FSB. Putin is my cousin. I'm an arms dealer, and I'm here to tell you and warn you not to make the film." Yeah. And we found out after that all my phones were tapped, personal stuff was tapped, office was tapped for about a year leading up to that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I just cut in there? Sorry about this, Marco. Obviously, I'm desperate, so we'll have to try and come back to that in just a second. On the face of it, it does appear that things are working now. Mira, I would appreciate if you could just do a double check in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For those of you who have joined us via Facebook and YouTube, I can see the numbers going up as we speak. For those who joined, Renato, thank you. I can see you're on YouTube. Perfect. On those of you who joined us via Facebook, on the Facebook page, can you just type in the chat that you can see the stream, okay, and also hear audio as well. If there's a problem, join on YouTube, okay, because it's fine on YouTube, okay. But I think without further ado, we'll get started. I'm sorry to cut you a bit short in your prime there, Marco. Just to do a little bit of an introduction first, we're very privileged to have Sir Marco Robinson on the live stream today. Thank you, Renato, Marco, for joining us, and got a great topic for you today. And obviously really keen to hear Marco's story. Obviously, if you could introduce yourselves on the chat as well and just tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do it, what really motivates you at a personal level, and also be bold with your questions. Marco loves nice, difficult questions. I
love curveball questions, please.
Yeah. Just go with them. Obviously, no promotional web links, guys, please. That'd be really appreciated. It's all about focusing on the content here today and our guests. A little bit of introduction from from me, first of all. Business Growth Bureau was formed about 6 years ago. I'm a great believer on building on the importance of circular relationships, and also very driven by a sense of social purpose. Chris, do you want to give a very brief introduction to yourself as well?
Yeah. Chris Cooper, help leaders to develop themselves, their people, build highly engaged workforces. Co-authored a book called The Power to Get Things Done, published by Penguin Random House, New York, and I've hosted a business radio show on Voice America for and now in its 10th year, which is accessed in over 50 countries.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Now, Marco, we're going to come to you properly in just a second. Obviously, found that very flattering picture of you. I think it was on LinkedIn, actually. I nicked it off LinkedIn. But you're the author of 2 great books. I can't say I've read them, but they sound absolutely fascinating, and I know they're on Amazon. And what I'd very much like to do is just to say that I did quite a bit of research earlier on today, and I know, Chris, you did as well. I was staggered when I found you on Instagram, 170,000 followers. So that is one hell of a following. So I can see exactly why, because obviously of the good works you've done and everywhere else. And also the actual film you've been involved with, Legacy of Lies. I think I'm correct to say it's won some awards as well, Marco. Is that right? So can you?
It's won 22 awards, and it's won 10 awards for best film.
Wow.
Right. Wow. God, that's amazing. 22 awards.
Yeah.
That's
It
phenomenal.
won the Miami Film Festival, London Film Festival. It won the best film at 10 worldwide big festivals, and best director, best production, all that kind of stuff. So that was very, very satisfying to see that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so thanks, Marco. Muriel, behind the scenes, could you just go into the Facebook page and just add a comment and then ask people to join via YouTube, if that's all right?
Yeah, I've just put it in the chat window because Facebook definitely isn't working, but yes, I will.
Go into Facebook itself, the page itself, Muriel, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll obviously make a recording available as well afterwards. So now the other great things, this is Legacy of Lies, and which of course has been your big project for a while, Marco, and it was Amazon Prime. It started on the 12th on Amazon Prime, 12th of this month, Marco. Yeah. And the US, was it released a bit earlier in the US?
It was, it was released in the US end of July.
Right, well, end of July, okay. And it was premiered in London, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good, fantastic. So obviously, we'll no doubt be drilling in a lot more detail on that in a moment, although I think you're joining us as a guest in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll drill down a bit more on that then as well, if that's okay with you. But I will highly recommend this film. Wendy and myself and Sam, our son, watched it last night. Go to Amazon Prime and look up Legacy of Lies, and it's a great film. Is it on the other of the platforms like Apple, iTunes or anything like that?
On iTunes and Amazon Prime. It's going to be on Netflix probably next year. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. So no doubt we'll be hearing a lot more about that. And I think something that's I've had great pleasure of knowing Mark only for a little while, but I'd like to feel I've known you much longer than that. But you've done some excellent work as well around the Channel 4 series, Get a Home for Free, Home to Your House for Free. In fact, Marco, would you kindly tell us a little bit about your work that you did around that as well? And how that came about, and also we'll come to your background a little bit more when you were a lot younger in a minute. But could you just tell us a bit more about your passion really around this and what really motivated you to get involved with what you were doing here?
Well, my passion really is homelessness, because I used to be homeless, and I was homeless as a child and an adult, and I've been through probably every hardship apart from having a disease. So, I can't say I've been through that, but I've been through every hardship you can imagine in poverty. So when I was 2 years old, my mum left my dad. She was 23, I was 2. He was a gambler, a massive gambler. He ran up debts all over town. She left him. She went to live with her mum in the north of England. It was very cold, it was snowing. And the stepfather. Now, what she didn't tell me, in fact, she only told me this a couple of years ago when we were making a TV show, is that she was sexually abused by her stepfather since she was about 5 years old. So for her to go back to that environment was very scary for her, but she had no choice. And on the doorstep, her stepfather said to my grandma, my mum's mum, it's either me or them. and my grandma said, you can't stay here. So we basically slept in the park. And we did that for quite a few days. We nearly died. We got taken in, but we were basically transient. So my mum was not an academic. She wasn't qualified. She didn't go to university. She was basically doing casual work. And we moved around the country a lot. I mean, I think by the time I was 10, I'd been to about 50 different schools. And during that time, we were couch surfing. We were on the street through a lot of that. And, you know, I remember that as a child very vividly. But also I remember what my mum had to go through. I wasn't really as concerned because her first duty was to protect me. But, you know, when I saw the pain she went through, that was very, you know, horrifying to see that kind of pain. And then she married again. She married my stepfather, who seemed a great guy. And he ended up being a bipolar domestic abuser. So he used to hit my mum, throw down the stairs, oh, God knows what, you know. So I tried to fight back, but I was only 8 years old. Not a lot I could do about that. So it went on for years. I ran away from home a lot. Eventually she left him, thank God. And she met a great guy she's still with. But I left home when I was 15. I did go to school, but I didn't really like school because all the shit that I was going through at home, I didn't really get school. It was too much emotional stuff going on. So I was the guy at the back of the room looking out the window when I was at school. And when I was 15, I said I had enough. I left, and I didn't have any money, but I got some part-time jobs. I lived in a park for a while, you know, in Manchester. And eventually I made some money, was able to get a little room, and, you know, I was able to try, you know, basically progress. But what I learned from that hardship was that it's your responsibility to look after yourself. And that was probably the greatest lesson I learned, that no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to learn how to do it. And basically, if you don't do it, you're going to die. You know, you're not going to live. You're not going to be successful. But, you know, one of the questions in my head was, I'd seen all the bad side of life. So I flipped my question to, well, hang on a minute. I don't want this. How can I be successful? And that question was a narrative in my mind since I was 15. And I got the answer to that question by getting opportunities, and eventually got into sales about 20 years old. When I went into sales, I was very shy, very reserved because of all the emotional trauma before I had in my childhood and teenage years. But it taught me a lot about communication, and eventually I became the top salesperson in that company. Became salesperson of the year, ended up running the company, and I was offered a job in Malaysia in 1997 to run a public company, which I went over to do, and became very successful at doing that. I turned it into $1 billion company from nothing. But doing that for 3 years, it was a lot of stress. There was a lot of politics, blah, blah, blah. I can't go into too much detail because I don't have enough time, because we need to get to the question to Channel 4. So cut a long story short, 2017, Channel 4 approached me and said, listen, we've heard about your story. Would you like to give a house away on TV to address basically the social housing issue that people cannot afford to buy a house in the UK? First-time buyers are no longer can qualify. The mortgage is too expensive, deposits too high, 20%, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, homelessness now is basically an epidemic, really. And the government hides the figures because they don't want you to know what the real story is. But I know the real story because I've got my own charity called Freedom X, and I do a lot of work with homeless people and find them houses and re-educate them and stuff like that. So Channel 4 approached me, said, would you like to give a house away? I said, yes, I'd love to do that. So we made a show called Get a House for Free. There was 25,000 people apply for the house, as you can imagine. A lot of people want a free house. So we had to really narrow that down and filter it to the people that really, really needed the help. And I gave 3 houses away on that TV show. One was to a young lady that was 21 with a very young baby that reminded me of my mum when I was young. So that really was relevant to me. Then I gave one away to a blind lady who worked in the emergency services. And I gave one away to a Syrian asylum seeker family. And actually, they were living in the UK, but they were on the streets for about a year after coming out of social housing. And they came from Syria. They paid £20,000 to a human trafficker to get into a ship container with his 2 kids to get to the UK. They didn't know where they were going to end up, and they had to leave the wife behind because they couldn't afford to take her. So they were in England for 10 years on nothing, £35 a week between them. Then they lost all that. And that, you know, they were the most well-dressed people I've ever met in my life, the most humble people I've ever met in my life. And got them housing, and I was able to get asylum for them through my legal team, and they now live in the UK and got their own place, and you know, it's just a brilliant transformational story.
Wow, that's so powerful. And with the asylum family, they've now well established in the UK.
Yes, they've got work, they've got their asylum.
Were all three cases were actually featured as part of the Channel 4 series, were they?
Yes.
I saw the YouTube video,
Yes.
the blind lady, and obviously this lady here. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's so moving. And I know it's, you're very passionate about that. Have you basically formed your own charity for that, or have you partnered up with charities?
I've got my own charity called Freedom X.
Right. Yeah. And what's the mission and purpose behind that, Marco?
Freedom X focuses on not just housing, but re-educating people and getting them to, because already it's all very well giving people a home, but if they don't have the knowledge or the financial kind of capability to keep that home, they're going to lose it again. So what we do is we educate them and we get them into a job, and then we get them a house. So it's all about basically re-pivoting people into something that they can get work in that's relevant, and then they can create their own economy, microeconomy, and then they can sustain themselves and grow.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you've got also a very interesting background, because I think you describe yourself as a celebrity investor, property investor, and mentor and coach, for example. The bulk of your wealth, and obviously what's enabled you to do all these great things, if I've understood it correctly, you're very much self-made. It's all been through your own efforts and entrepreneurism and everything else to do with it. I know you're obviously heavily involved with property. Which areas have generated the most wealth for you, perhaps by industry sector? Is it the property side, or is it lots of other things you've been doing as well?
There's been lots. I mean, to be honest with you, I've made more money in doing business. But property is a massive benefit to everybody. And, you know, property saved my life so many times. I mean, literally, I've been in deep shit, but luckily I've had some property that's bailed me out. And I would advise anybody and everybody to get on the property ladder as soon as you can and get some equity under your belt. And, you know, I know there's a new government. I know there's a new government program coming out where there's 5% deposit and stuff like that. Let's see what happens. But basically, you know, I learned property, and I didn't start buying property till I was 40. I was very late to the game. But, you know, I kicked myself. You kick yourself, don't you, for doing that? Because I remember buying my first house when I was 28 for £50,000, and I sold it for £50,000 3 years later, and a year later it went up to £180,000. I thought, oh my God, I'm really bad at property. I'm not going to do it again, you know. And I focused on business instead. So yeah, property is, you know, you have to do property. It's something that will always work for you. And of course, you have to make sure you buy it in the right place. You buy it where there's jobs. There's got to be criteria. You've got to basically educate yourself. So basically the trigger for my success has always been to self-learn. You know, I've never ever been academical guy. But if I've wanted to do something, I've gone and found the way to do it. I find the best people in the industry. So right, I need to go and follow the people that have got what I want, and then I ask them how to do it. Right,
nice. Okay, that's really good. And as a point of interest, would you, if you actually hadn't had these very tough, you know, the journey you went through when you were a child, would you say that you'd be the same person now? In other words, do you still feel you would have been very successful like this, or would you say, in a strange sort of way, although it's been horrible what you've been through as a child, as it were, would you say in a sense that's also it's actually helped you to where
I'm very grateful for? It's a blessing.
Right, you see it's a blessing rather than a
blessing. Total blessing. If I had not have had those lessons about how bad it can be, you know, and I always refer to this statement, because the only way to change your life is two things that change it, two triggers: desperation or inspiration. There's only really two things. And those two polar things are what get you to take action, massive action, and get yourself out of a desperate situation and into the light and inspiration pulls you long term. So inspiration is part of where your purpose is. Why you is your, like you said before, Rupert, what is your why? Why are you doing this shit? You know, so that's really the inspiration you've always got to look for in your life, and not just outside, but also from yourself, because all change is from the internal spirit. It's not from the external. It's always internal. But you need a trigger sometimes externally to trigger that internal change. So for me, desperation's been a great teacher. And if you notice, if for example, there's no better teacher than rock bottom. There's no better teacher than being 6 months behind your credit card bills and being about to lose your house. There's no better teacher. You know, that kind of shit gets you to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do because you don't do stuff in your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a bit of a message, it's a slight deviation from what you're saying, but it's very relevant to what's happening at the moment. Clearly, you know, we're going through a second wave now. I'm trying to not to dwell too much on this COVID scenario because we talked about it so many times before. And yeah, exactly. And then we talked about conspiracy theories before as well. So we're not going to go on that one. And then we might have a third wave. But what would you say to those people, for example, where things at the moment perhaps have gone rather horribly wrong for them? You know, for example, it may be that their business has gone down. It may be the personal guarantees are being called in. It may be that the finance companies and, you know, banks are being, I won't say on air, but, you know, we know what we're trying to say here. But what would you say to those people where they're perhaps going through a real emotional roller coaster at the moment? How can they turn what is a severe period of time of adversity and turn that into a force for good? How can they reinvent themselves?
Well, the first thing I would advise, especially English people, is stop watching TV.
Yeah.
And especially stop watching the media and the news, because everything on the media right now, I don't think there's 1 second that goes by coronavirus is not mentioned. It's down your throat every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, you know? So if you're feeding your mind with that kind of crap all day, what's your mind going to do with that? It's going to turn very negative and have a scarcity mindset. Oh, fuck, I'm going to lose everything. Oh, fuck, I'm going to lose my job. Oh, fuck, I'm going to do this. And the fact is, people have lost a lot of things, even though the government's done furlough, bounce back loans, all this kind of stuff. But a lot of people kind of fell between the cracks, especially self-employed people. So don't look to the government to save your life and, you know, get your career back on track. Don't look at school to do that. The first place you've got to look is inside and realize that you have the resources to turn your life around. Because if I can do it, and I'm a homeless dropout, anyone can do it, you know? So stop watching the media and basically start feeding your mind with positive things and start focusing on people that have got out of that situation and turned their life around. And there are many people that have pivoted since March and started something else, which is now working for them. You know, it takes a bit of time and focus and hard work, but if you're not prepared to do that, you are going to become a victim of a society where all you're hearing is coronavirus.
Yeah, no, that is, and it's so true. And I'll just touch on a bit of a personal story. I'll only spend about 30 seconds on this, but as Marco knows, I think I discussed this with you a while back. Certainly, Muriel knows, Chris knows.
Very touched by it, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we personally nearly lost a house about 12 years ago, and it was horrible. I had a business which was very successful at the time, but it went horribly wrong. And then, of course, the guarantees kicked in, and Muriel actually working with me at the time, and bless her cotton socks, she's still stayed true to this day. So a big credit to Muriel on that one. But at the end of the day, I was very lucky because, you know, my wife fortunately is still with me today. Our son's still here. We're still in the same home, despite like a 3 or 4 year legal battle with the bank for all sorts of reasons. And one of the things it really taught me as well is if you think from a legal point of view, everything is stacking against you. Yes, it may be, but actually there's lots of things you can put in place to protect yourselves. But also the banks themselves have to be compliant. So if you've got some reason or justification to actually put in a bit of a fight, don't be frightened of a fight, embrace it. And the court system is so choked up at the moment. You should be able to buy yourselves quite a bit of time in some shape or form. So obviously I want to focus on the positive here today, but it is really important to for people to understand.
It's important to, I mean, what I've got from that story of yours is the people that stuck by you. That's an incredible thing that you had that time. I mean, because most of the time when you're going through a load of crap like that, especially what you went through, and I've got another story about that in a minute as well. You're going to know who your friends are and who your friends are not, if you know what I mean. So the fair weather friends disappear, but the ones that truly are loyal to you, that love you, know that you're a great guy, you've got this thing about you, they stay there. Now, in the last 4 years, you see people look at me and go, oh, he's really successful, nothing bad happens to that guy. Let me tell you, it still happens, right? I bought a property in Manchester about 4 years ago, 51 apartments. And when I got the keys to that property, we found out that the fire cladding was the same as Grenfell. Now, this is a year before Grenfell happened. So when we got the keys, the fire cladding started falling off the walls. We had to call the fire brigade and the building was condemned. And I had to sue 7 people that were involved in that building, from the developer, to the building inspector, to the bank, to the lawyers, and it cost me £2 million.
Yeah.
And the bank came after me and sent a letter to my mum's house to take my mum's house away.
Oh.
Right? So, guys, literally, it can happen to anyone. And I did everything right to buy that property. But I was shafted because the fire cladding issue, and you all know about Grenfell, what happened there. Many people lost their lives and they've not been compensated. And the government have swept it under the carpet. In fact, I can tell you right now, the government in the latest inquiry said that all the data from Grenfell was on one laptop and it disappeared. This is a government statement, guys. And 2,000 buildings in the UK have the same fire cladding as Grenfell.
Crikey.
People are living in right now, and some insurance companies won't even insure them against fire. So this is a massive problem, and I'm making a documentary about this next year, by the way.
Right.
And I nearly lost everything I had.
Yeah.
All the things I worked for, Chris, were like laid out. And to be honest with you, I nearly thought about topping myself twice.
Wow.
I was in such a bad place. It was horrendous. And when you told me your story, Rupert, I connected with that because of what I went through the last 4 years. Now, I've sued all those people and won every single one. But of course, the developer went bankrupt, so I didn't get the money back.
No.
So now I'm suing the lawyers for not giving me independent legal advice.
God. Actually, we had 3 claims at the time with the lawyers and with the administrators and with the bank at the time. Yeah, the people I felt really sorry for, they were, of course, very lucky because, we had this policy of making sure our clients looked after. We did our best by our teams and everything else. But, it's a horrible...
The bank actually did a smear campaign against me online.
Really?
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Because I basically came after me and said, right, you're not doing this. So I did a social media campaign against the bank and told the truth. And then they came after me online.
Yeah. Wow. That's not...
I got them to drop their lawsuit because of all the bad press they were getting online.
Right. Well, so
that's a question that's relevant to both of you here. I think is listen to you both, and I've had a couple of spells in my life where I felt like I've been on my knees. But I just wonder, when you do have that situation where you are on your knees, Rupert with your house, and you, Marco, with that situation with that big property, is what inspires you to then go on and take further risk and really put yourself out there? You've gone and created this amazing movie that's doing really well. Rupert, you've got the Business Growth Bureau, because those sorts of situations could make you want to curl up in a little ball and actually play safe from now on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Chris. Very good question. I think part of it is justice. A big part of it is I'm a small guy. They're big people, but they shouldn't get away with it. They should not get away with that kind of stuff. So part of my makeup is that I want to get that story out to show people that it doesn't matter how poor you are, it doesn't matter how small you are, you've still got a voice and you can still win. Yeah. And you know, the other part of me is to fight, really, to fight that, because, you know, I've always been a fighter. So, and that put me in a curl. I was there under the covers, literally, some nights, literally like that. Even me and my background, because when you had the bank coming after you, you can imagine Rupert's been there. You know, banks are very powerful things. And when they come after you, a lot of people are going to go, oh my God, there's nothing you can do, because they've got loads of money and they've got loads of lawyers and they've got never ending cash supplies. And, you know, I was going to be in court in London High Court for the stuff I put online against them. And I needed to get 25 grand together in a day to go to court. I didn't have the liquid cash available, you know. So I managed to go online again, print this stuff out and do a statement. Then they withdrew the case at the last minute, but it was an hour before the deadline. So, yeah, you know, basically the lesson in adversity is you have to be resilient.
Yeah.
You know, and resilience is a massive asset that you only kind of meet when you're going through adversity. So you don't really recognize it at first if you have the power to fight back. But if you know you're right and you keep rationalizing that and you speak to experts that have been through similar things, that kind of builds up your resilience. Says, right, fuck all this, because you know what? I'm going to lose everything, so I've got nothing to lose. That's part of the basis of fighting back. I've got nothing to lose anyway, so might as well fight, you know?
Yeah, no, that's fine, Mark. I think what we'll do, that's been so helpful, and thank you for sharing that. And we'll probably drill down in the next episode or next when you're on again in a few weeks' time on this as well. What I think would be really nice is we could, which we touched several of these points today, but if we could drill down a little bit more on these points on this slide, if that's all right. Chris, if you could very kindly ask you to just keep a check on things behind the scenes, like before, if that's okay. And I'll bring you in a second. And let me just try and make it so we can see each other a little bit better. Everyone can see us both, rather. There we go. Yeah. So those points, I think we talked a little bit about being resilient in any adversity. We've covered that to a degree. In terms of perhaps developing a little bit of a bulletproof system, returning to the main points of today. So this is all under the theme of how to bounce back from extreme adversity. What would you, as part of that bulletproof system, what would you describe that as? What should people do?
Well, I call it your brand.
Okay.
And brand is an acronym, and the letter B in brand is belief. So the whole point of being you, who you are, and what you do in life is, do you believe in yourself or not? Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to manifest the things that you want. You're not going to be able to do the things you want. You're not going to be able to live your life properly. You're always going to doubt yourself. You're going to hold back. You're going to live in fear, which never works and never produces any great outcome. So belief is number one. And, you know, the belief is about mastering your inner game. Because the inner game is everyone talks to themselves. I don't care who you are. And a lot of the time you get negative things talking to yourself. You can't do this, you can't do that. All this banks are going to win and all this kind of crap. And you've got to have the power to say, stop, fuck you, I'm going to do this. And you go out and start learning how to do it. And you rationalize that by going, well, you know what? Other people have done it. Why can't I do it? So you build up that belief system like this. A belief system is a system that has to be bulletproof. And to get a bulletproof belief system, you've got to read a lot more from people that have got that system. You've got to go to events, you know, when you can, online events, and learn from people that have been through hardship and see how they overcame it. And read those biographies, read those inspirational stories, watch the Olympics, you know, watch people who go and save people's lives out of nowhere. Watch people that do things just because they fucking can do it, because they're brave and believe themselves, they've got courage. So that's absolutely number one. And the R is resilience, because your belief is going to get tested all the time. All the time, people are going to test you. Situations are going to test you. Rupert, you've been there. So have I. So learn that you can overcome it. And you've got to build up a set of tools in your resilience treasure chest that you can get out and start using. All right. And, you know, part of those resilient tools are your belief system, the language you speak, who you hang around with is a massive part of it. You know, you've got to communicate with the people you love and spend time with. You've got to spend time with people that are on your side. That's how you build that resilience up. And you've got to talk to experts who can help you. Because people think experts cost lots of money. They don't. You know, you can access experts quite easily, especially nowadays. Go on fucking YouTube and watch the videos. You know, you can do it for free. Now, so that's the B and the R. The A in brand is authority. And in your career, what you've got to strive for is to become an expert. So you've got to go out your way and really work hard to be the expert. And I've done that over the years. I've gone out there and learned how to do certain things and become an expert in doing it. And then I've gone out and done it, like making a film, for example. I had no experience doing that. I had to go and learn it from scratch. No one taught me. I had to go and learn it from scratch. So that's the authority. The next, and now because I've made that film, people are coming up to me, Marco, I want to make a film with you. Can I be in your next film? Here's some money, make a film with me. So you've got that kind of proof. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Proof of work.
Nice.
And then the N in brand, the N is niche, if you want to say it. You've got to have a speciality that's relevant to your target market. You see, in business, the most important thing is knowing who your target market is, or the customer avatar. What makes them buy? What do they want? What solution do they need? What pain have they got? And can you provide that to them by being relevant to them, by providing those resources to them as something they can afford, and they will buy from you all day long. And, you know, the proof of this is already happening now online. There are 3 times more people online now since March.
So it's really 3 times more online. Wow. Okay.
Well, look at Amazon's share price. It doubled in a month. Okay. And you can all go against Jeff Bezos, but at the end of the day, he went out and did it.
Yeah.
Right. So you can either complain about it, or you can do something about it and get on that train that's going to take you to wealth. And, you know, right now I'm developing my own online course to teach entrepreneurs to start an online business. And I started from scratch 6 months ago, but now I've built a framework and now I'm launching that very soon. But I had to learn that. But there are people half my age making millions per month online from nothing. So you have to be, I say, omnipresent online.
That's actually really important. In effect, you almost need to be a bit of an online task in many ways, don't you? You just have to be out there, be seen, and doing it.
But if you're going to be online, there's no point being online if you've got no content.
Yeah.
What's the relevance? What you're offering? So there's got to be a value there. So everything you do online has to be really curated in a way where people get value from watching content from you. And that's why I've got a big following now. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really focusing on that because I was making my film and this litigation that took so much of my time. I wasn't really going out there. So right, let's make a video every day on Instagram. Not even been doing that because that's not been my focus. Now it is my focus because of what's happening in the world right now. So niche is very important. And last of all is D in the brand is D. And D stands for decode and build demand.
Nice. Yeah.
So decode what product your market would really want to get, and then get demand from people to buy it by marketing it right.
Right. That's really nice. So just so for everyone's benefit here, obviously people can listen to the recording after the replay this part of it, but can you just reiterate, obviously brand, can you just reiterate the main sentences associated to each one of those? So
brand, B-R-A-N-D, first, belief.
Belief, yeah. Nice.
Build in a game and belief system.
Yes.
Because you can't launch a business without a belief system. You get destroyed by your competition. The R of brand is resilience. So you're going to get rejections. You're going to get setbacks. People are not going to buy from you. You have to be able to deal with that. And then overcome it. That's resilience. Find a way to overcome it. The A out of brand is authority. Become an authority in your chosen field of expertise. Become an expert. Become a go-to person. So when someone says, well, do you know anybody that makes books where there's like, you can take a pen out and write, oh, I know just a person. It's Rupert. He does that. So, you know, that's what I mean by being the go-to. And then the N from brand is niche. Nice. So become very relevant to your target market and find out what they want and build a product that gives them what they want. And the last thing of brand is the D, and that's the decode and build demand. So deconstruct what's in the marketplace, study the competition, do a SWOT analysis, find out what everybody else is offering online, then find out a way to do it better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely lovely. I love it. And thank you, Chris or Muriel, whoever's put that up on my behalf. There's not two Ruperts here, by the way. We share the login with...
Yes, you're very multi-skilled, Rupert. I'm impressed.
It's Muriel. It's you trying to take the credit for it, Muriel. Good for you. Go for it. I love it. Absolutely love it. A bit of competition is always good as well. So I love it. So it's really interesting. Obviously, going back to the first point for a second, the bulletproof system. In fact, I was having a great conversation with someone immediately prior to this, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing, but a guy called Dominic a bit earlier on. And he's heavily into the events industry. And he was saying, obviously, understandably, that sector's been hit really hard. Interesting enough, he has been very smart. And what has he thought about doing? He thought, well, we're dealing with this horrible scenario we are at the moment. Let's try and embrace it. So he's come with a completely new idea around that. Now, I won't share the idea because I haven't got his permission to do that. Anyone who knows, if you're on here at the moment, by all means, introduce yourselves. Dominic, and that would be really nice. Obviously, do engage with Dominic if you see him in the chat. But he basically reinvented himself and embraced the new world order we're actually living in at the moment. Now, you obviously describe it as a bulletproof system.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say you can make things more bulletproof? Especially, how can people make that pivot at the moment? Have you got some ideas around that at this particular point in time?
Be relevant in today's world. You know, to do that, you have to really filter out what you need to really be looking at every day. So you're looking at the top people in the industry in your field. Find out, just follow them. Find out what they're doing. Model them. That's how you become bulletproof, and just put those things into your core competencies in yourself and also your team. So, you know, the best asset anyone has is the ability to learn something new that's relevant to progress. And so many people kind of dismiss learning after they leave school. They're fed up with learning. They don't want to fucking learn anymore because shit, I spent 20 years at school, you know. But, you know, what's made me the most money is learning what I needed to learn at that time. And I was able to really expedite that into an execution of a product, which no one else did at that time. So that's how I got ahead of the game. Right. Nice. Yeah. Interesting enough, something that we found really helpful last year, because actually part of the Business Growth Bureau was that we, middle part of last year, we realized a lot of new people coming into the market in the sector that we serve, and lots of other expertise around LinkedIn as well. So we had to look at about how making the whole service much more relevant. And one of the things I feel very strongly about is that we should be here for the long term to help our members and our clients. So I'm less of a lover of transactional businesses, per se, where you've done the deal and you walk away from that customer, you don't really care anymore. I actually do care about all our members and clients. So last year we looked about how we can turn it much more into a membership organization, make people feel part of something really special. And we didn't know whether our new concepts were going to really work or not. We had a good idea that it would. Yes. It's based around the 12-pillar framework. So I thought, well, what can we do? So we started to run some focus groups around that. So what we did is we invited 6 people into each focus group. We ran it as like a 2-hour session, and ran a morning session and afternoon, so that's 12 in one day. And we actually paid people to come along. Nice. I like it. Came Amazon about, it wasn't a lot, because actually a lot of people, you know, actually love just being part of these things. The great thing, that's to stop you. Sorry to interrupt, but that's important because that's a very novel marketing tactic. Yeah, that everyone else wasn't doing, right? Well, that's right. My wife, I'll give you a clue. My wife Wendy is heavily into qualitative market research. So I thought, well, actually, it's interesting. People quite often get paid to do that. Well, why, if we're expecting someone to give up their time, why don't we give them some Amazon vouchers or something along for coming along? And interesting enough, the great thing is people, not surprisingly, because we targeted people in those focus groups who were broadly speaking our target market, they told us what they wanted. And then interesting enough, we gave them what they wanted, and a number of those became clients. So that's decoding what they want. That's it. Right? Exactly. Which is, you know, so anyone on this joining us this afternoon, I very much actively encourage you do some real-time R&D as well. Yeah. And a lot of people think they should do expensive research, or you know, they should spend months examining the competition. A lot of this stuff can be much more dynamic. And
you know, the great thing is what we found was that was success. You know, the first couple we did were really well received. So we kept on repeating for about 4 or 5 months, and each month he was working with predictability, and that enabled us also to test different price points. And that's the other thing is, if you've got a service which is relatively unique, is how do you make that proposition so it really stands out, and where do you set
high? If highly relevant, we'll pay more for it. Simple as that.
Yeah,
it's not relevant, we're not going to pay for it. You know.
So
highly relevant to their circumstances and what they want.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's, but I think hopefully a few people got some ideas from that as we talk about this now. And obviously, you've been very smart at positioning yourself as an expert. I've got a question I personally love to ask. Others might as well. 170 million followers on Instagram.
170,000, not 170 million.
Oh, sorry, I do correct. 100,000 would be nice, isn't it? 170 million. Sorry, I probably. Yeah, exactly. So how did you get 170,000?
Well, I teach it actually how to do that, but basically by putting out great content. And when you get great content, people share it. They want to be part of it, and they want to, you know, you've got to reply to all your comments, include people, don't ignore people, befriend people. You know, one of the best books ever written is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, isn't it? Feed them honey, give them what they want, include them. You know, the Channel 4 TV show was a huge deal to my social media. That got a lot of followers because of what I did. And the reason that people connected with that, because I was very courageous in doing that, because Channel 4 asked a lot of people before me when they would give a house away, a lot of richer people, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't give it away.
You're joking?
No, I'm not joking. I'm not. You know, they asked people like Philip Green, and he said, no, I'll give them a free rent for a year, but won't give them a house.
God, how pathetic is that? Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about giving back as well. But the actual, you know, from your point of view, it tied in very much with your whole value belief system, didn't it?
Right. So social media is transparent. It shows who you are if you're prepared to take the courage and tell, and just be yourself. You see, so many people are afraid to be themselves. They put filters on.
Yes.
To make up for something they haven't got.
Yeah.
And what people love now, especially now, is authenticity. More than anything else.
Say that again.
Authenticity.
Yes. Yeah. I think the thing is about being very real as well. And I have to give credit to Chris on this, by the way, as well, because when we saw this car crash coming down the road in February, March, I spoke to Chris about it, knowing that Chris is a really caring person who loves to share value. I said, Chris, how about we do something together as part of it every Thursday? So the live streams came about, not with a view to making money, but it's about sharing pure value and inviting great people onto the program. So,
yes. However, if you talk about making money, this, although it's not a purposefully making money strategy, it adds value to your product and your business. So people actually prefer to buy your product because you've got this live stream going on and it adds value. You see what I mean? Yeah. So actually,
it accelerates the relation with trust as well. So that's the other thing too. So which we talk about a lot, which is very similar to what you're saying. By the way, Alex, I think you're on here today. Muriel, Alex, could you very kindly join into the green room, and we'll bring you on air in just a second to ask Marco a question, if that's all right. But while we do that, Muriel, if I could bring you back in just for a second, if that's all right. Hopefully I didn't surprise you too much. So Alex, do join in the green room, and we'll bring you in a second. Please join. Muriel, what the question from the session beforehand? Can you just share the question, and perhaps we can file that one, and Marco, if that's okay.
Yeah, excellent. Sorry, I was just putting the link in for Alex, but I see Alex joined. Right, the question that came up at our networking earlier, Marco, was how do we look for opportunities in the realms of what we're going through at this current moment?
Yeah, that's a very big question, isn't it? So the first thing you've got to do is detach yourself from the inner sanctum of what's going on right now. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because most people watching TV, oh fuck, what's going to happen next? You've got to get yourself out of that, go for a walk, get outside, detach yourself from all that kind of rubbish that's feeding your mind negativity. And you've got to be smart and observant and see what's going on now. What's the trends in business? What's making money? apart from vaccines, that's obvious, right? What's going to make money? It's definitely going to be health. It's definitely going to be online as a channel. That's absolutely, you have to master that medium. But you've got to look at what's going to be selling more in the lockdowns in now this new world we live in, because COVID is not going to go away in the next year. It's going to stay.
Right. The other thing
we have to just learn to live with that.
Yeah.
You know, so the people who adapt the quickest are the people that will survive. It's like the Darwinism theory. So you've got to adapt to the environment. Otherwise, you're going to be extinct.
Yeah. It'd be one of the dinosaurs.
I speak live on stage. I used to do seminars every week for 10 years to thousands of people. I cannot use that model anymore. I'd be on stage, no one would be there, you know? So I've got to master new skills, and absolutely, definitely is online. You've got to master that skill. You've got to find out who's doing it well. And so that's channel. But in terms of trends, so I'm going to ask you, Rupert and Muriel, what do you think now is going to do well after COVID?
Good, really good question. I would say anything to do with the technology sector is going to continue to do well. You only need to look at Amazon and others. There's some few surprising ones which I hadn't even thought about, but companies that produce sort of very exotic garden sheds, which you can turn into workshops or into an extended office. I think, Muriel, we discussed hot tub companies selling hot tubs. So things at home.
Hot tub was the best-selling item for the home during March to July.
That's right. Yeah.
The reason for that, just make some sense here. People are spending more fucking time at home.
Yeah.
So therefore, they're going to move to a nicer house, or they're going to upgrade it and build an office there. Because what's the government keep saying? Work from home. Right?
I think the travel industry will benefit, because I don't know about you, but I am going to jump on the plane at the first opportunity I get and visit Ibiza and have a whale of a time.
That's great. So on travel, what now is booming in travel? Think about this. What segment of travel is now booming? Staycations. Staycations. This country, right? I tried to book a holiday 2 months ago to go to Wales, to Llandudno for 2 nights, and the room would cost me £500. It was full. So right now at this point in time, people are staying in this country because they're frightened to death of traveling and going, and everything's getting booked up. Yeah. So one great investment would be a holiday let.
Yeah.
Like it.
I would have seen you in London there 2 weeks ago.
You're making 4 times your money from a normal tenant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of people are not going to go abroad for a while because of this. So that would be a great business to do now if you can find a way into it.
Yeah, Mark. Muriel. Thank you very much. Chris, I'm going to introduce you in a few, about 2 or 3 minutes, if that's all right. But Alex would like to bring you in. We're probably going to go over about 5 or 10 minutes today. But
shall I remove myself?
No, just stay there, Muriel. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Just ask to. Yeah, good. Right, let me bring Alex in. Hello, Alex.
Oh, we're on quadrants now. Good. Hello, Rupert. Hello, Marco. Hey, Marco, we could share Russian stories. I was working out in Siberia nearly 30 years ago, and I had an ex-KGB minder to protect me.
Oh my.
He protected me. Unfortunately, my client was murdered. So it's a country where interesting things happen. Now, prior to this session, prior to this session, we have a networking and collaboration session, and we talk about various topics and come up with questions to feed into here. So here's a question. Around adversity. When you're facing adversity, your response to the situation may be to do the things you've always done. That might be the only thing you know, the only way you really feel you can respond. And the deeper, the more painful the adversity, the more you might be instinctively drawn to doing those things you've always done, but do them harder and do them more and do them harder again. So how do you think that people in that situation, and you must have met many of them, people in that situation can recognize that actually they've got to do something different, even though they may not be comfortable about it, even though it may not be natural for them?
Well, I think that's very subjective. to individuals. And, you know, I'm going to touch on mental health right now, because I feel mental health is a massive issue, especially now, because people are losing everything. And like you said, Alex, people are going to what they know as the way, as the only thing they know, but it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It's not, the tool doesn't work anymore. You know, they can't go and ask the mum for money, or they can't go and ask for a job down the road. That doesn't work anymore. So people have two choices. They either retreat and basically go into this cocoon to protect themselves, which never works, as we know, or they fight against it. And that subjective surrounding and all these things going on is really based on the person's experience in the past. What have they done in the past when they've been confronted with this? Because a lot of adversity that's presented to people is such a shocking. I mean, you're talking about a Russian client being killed. That's shocking. Most people haven't been through that. I have, and you have, but most people haven't. But you see, let's make it, it's all relative, isn't it? You see, so you could have someone that's lost a job, but that would feel like they've lost their partner. You know, it's really relative, isn't it? And you know, the most important thing that we have to do as humans is, because we're being divided now as humans by the powers that be, and we've got to learn as humans that we're all connected, and we've got to go to people for help. Yeah. And a lot of people don't go for help because they think they're not good enough. So they have that, you know, a lot of the psychology in life is people think they're not good enough. That's a massive driver of people in their lives from birth. Or they feel that they can do it on their own, but they can't. And you see, human nature is communication. We're built to communicate and to be social. Right now, the narrative is social distancing, isn't it? They didn't call it physical distancing; they called it social distancing. So that's a very psychological thing that people have to deal with. Oh shit, we can't be social anymore, you know. But to come back to your question, I think again it's subjective, and I don't know, how did you deal with yours, Alex, when that happened to you in Russia?
Well, I got out of the country. I was all right. To be brutally frank. But if I think about the situation we're in now, and you know, building on what you were saying, a lot of people find it very difficult to ask for help.
Yes,
it's a weakness, right?
Definitely.
But you said something very interesting when you were going through your acronym brand. Yeah. And you said ask for help. You know, the stark reality is we've all been through some kind of situation where we felt we were in despair. We didn't know what to do. We've all been there. And going to someone to ask for help isn't weakness. You're going to someone who's actually been through something before. It might not be exactly the same as your problem, but they've been through that dark moment themselves. Everyone has. Show me the person that hasn't, and I won't believe them, right? Yeah. And I think you've just got to feel brave enough to recognize that and go and ask for help.
I totally agree with that, Alex. Very good advice. And to find someone who's been through a dark situation similar to yours, I think that must be your first go-to strategy, because if you're able to talk it out, you can rationalize it and put it in perspective, which most people don't. They get emotional, then they're embodied by fear. And you know, we all know on this call, we've all been through hardships. When fear takes over, you can't do anything. It freezes you, you know, and nothing good comes out of that. Talking to someone who's been through a similar situation is absolutely the best remedy, first of all. Absolutely. It's not a pill from the doctor. It's talking to somebody. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks, Alex. Chris, put you a little bit on the spot here, but hopefully I gave you a 2-minute warning, as it were. But what question would you particularly, you got yourself muted, Chris, by the way. What question have you got that you particularly would like to, you feel has come out today, would like to ask Marco around all of this?
Yeah, thank you for that, Rupert. I mean the whole you leave me in the back and just sort of bring me out and put the spotlight.
Best.
I just think, I don't know about a question, but I just think that I've enjoyed the conversation. I found it very helpful, and I think it's and the whole lot's been great. And I think particularly as well as thinking around, you know, current opportunities in the marketplace right now in terms of you know, where the markets are going and what we can do really. And I also wonder, I mean, when I was thinking about sort of mental health, that you talk about connecting with people, one of the things I've connected with quite a bit actually has been nature. You know, getting out into nature. And I wonder if that was a strategy as well, Marco, that you maybe and actually meditate as well.
Well, one of the reasons I live in the Peak District now is because literally the nature walking every day has saved my life. Because literally when you're in the forest, you're in a beautiful part of nature, and what you see is green and beauty. You absolutely calm down and you realize, hang on a minute, things aren't so bad, right? And also when you exercise, because exercising is part of getting outside, exercising releases endorphins. I know it's a cliche, we all know it, but it does make your mind think, it process more efficiently. So if you've got a problem, you can ask that question, how to get over this? And answers come out of nowhere, and it's amazing. I don't know if any of you have had this experience, guys. I'm sure you have, where you've got a problem, you've gone for a run or something. Shit, how am I going to get over this problem? And suddenly answers have come out of nowhere you never think about if you were stuck at home. You know, these are really powerful tools. That's one of the best strategies out there. Definitely get in touch with nature. Get out every day. Go for a walk somewhere at least.
Yeah. Hence we've got a dog.
I'd recommend people watch. I watched the other night. Was it My Octopus Teacher on Netflix? I don't know if you've seen that.
Not seen that, no.
No, but it's a documentary, and it's a guy in South Africa who got very stressed with his work. He was a filmmaker, and he was free diving on kelp forests near his home off the coast, and he saw an octopus one day, and actually started visiting it every day, and developed a relationship with this octopus. And it was remarkable in just seeing how sophisticated and this animal is, this creature was, but also how some of his problems at home started to resolve himself. His relationship with his son improved, and yeah, I'd recommend watching that. It really was. As of course, Legacy of Lies is essential, but My Octopus Teacher, yeah, I'd recommend it strongly.
Chris, if you're up for it, can you put the name of that in the chat window, just for the benefit of everyone on Facebook and YouTube at the moment? But I'm going to do a quick wrap up now, because we technically are over time. Not that we're enjoying ourselves so much, then that it's all to be gone for. Just spare me a split second. I'll try and sort this out. There we go. Now I'm sick to death of talking about this, and I apologize, but I'm going to bring it up yet again, okay? Because a lot of people here are real micro businesses, and if you're not, then it may well still apply. If not, please just bear with me for a second. Basically, this has been extended, I believe, till the end of November. However, I was speaking to someone yesterday who's dealt with a lot of bounce back applications, a guy called Raymond. I'm not sure if you're on this live stream today, but Raymond, if you are, then do make yourself known. And he's a bit of an expert in this space. Basically, this scheme is due to finish at the end of November. It's a particularly good scheme if you're needing to make sure you've got some financial reserves in the tank. But also, if you want to try and put some money into a bit of marketing or business development, or if you need to buy a vital piece of equipment for your business, then look at this. It's very easy to get at the moment, although the banks are overwhelmed. Also, just to warn you as well, that I know that this nearly was a lot of applications were in, and there was a big thing about whether people had to get them through in time, which had to be at the end by the end of October.
Okay, can I say something in this, Rupert, as a story for you? It's very relevant.
Please do.
So my lawyer, who's been working on my litigation for the last 4 years, called me up. He said, Marco, go for a bounce back loan. And that was when they first came out. I said, what? What do you mean a bounce back loan? He said, well, it's like free money. He said, I've got 50 grand and you don't have to pay it back for a year. Then it's a 6-year 0% interest. I said, wow, are you sure I can do that? Because I didn't think I could do it with my business, because it was a property business. He said, yeah, just try. 5 minutes later, applied, took me 2 minutes to apply. The next morning, there was £22,000 in my account. Nice,
yeah. And
I'm telling you this is because it's so powerful who you spend your time with.
Yeah.
My friend's a great lawyer. He taught me about that. If I'd not propagated that relationship or been in that, I wouldn't have even known about that, and I could have been too late. Because bounce back loans are great, but they're taking a longer time to apply for now, because obviously the government's overwhelmed with it. Banks are overwhelmed with it. But you can still get it, so just keep trying.
Yeah. But just bear in mind that I wouldn't delay your application. No, it's been extended to the end of November because it's very unclear if it's not been approved by the end of November whether you're going to still get the money. So just if you're serious about let's put a bit of extra fuel in the tank in terms of financial reserves, look at it now. Don't leave it. The terms have been enhanced a little bit, by the way, because I understand that it's now spread out over 10 years, not 6. But this is not my field, so don't press me on this particular point.
It's been stretched over 10 years.
Is that that's correct, Marco? Is it? Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. So it's
shout out to Leslie Morrissey. Thanks for your comment.
Yeah. No, thank you. And then just a little bit of a wrap up as well. If obviously it's because of you guys who are taking part in the live stream today as attendees and just joining and commenting. Sorry, we haven't picked on so many of those today, but they've made this show great. Obviously, we're very lucky to have people like Marco on here and Chris and Muriel helping as well. But what I would actively encourage you to do, if you've enjoyed today, please do tell other people about it. And these are free of charge for everyone's benefit here. And just think about what you can do there, because we all benefit by shared experience as far as that's concerned. And a quick reminder, obviously this takes place every Thursday. It's broken into 2 parts, networking collaboration session, followed by a different guest speaker each week. Next week, we've got a great guy called Damien Carhane. He's actually become a client over the last few days, which is lovely. In fact, I've known Damien for 5 years, interesting enough, and he joined in a mini conference a few weeks ago and took part, and he's going to be covering these points, and a lot of it's to do with dealing with self-sabotage, which of course is very relevant today, both at a personal level, but also in a business context, and I'm sure he will no doubt enjoy today as well. And thanks, Marco, for touching on that so much detail too today as well. So it's really appreciated. For those of you who want to learn a lot more about generating more business, particularly around LinkedIn, do feel free to register for one of our webinars. Again, that's free of charge. And to register for the live streams, you simply go to our website, which is businessgrowthbureau.com, and then choose the events drop down, and then when you register, you can either choose the continue option or choose recurring. If you choose continue, it books you in for the 1 session. If you choose recurring, it will remind you every week, and obviously a different guest speaker on each week, and so on. And think about who you would like to invite next week. We do care about everyone in our community, even if you're a free member, that's fine. But we want to be here to help you on that lonely journey. And we recognize that if you're a company of one, then it's nice to have people around you. If you're a director of a larger company or a leader, then you still need help and support. And we're very much there for you to help you in that growth. You can set yourself up a reminder in Facebook itself, or on YouTube, you hit that bell and hit the subscribe button, and you can take part that way. And what I would like to do is just mention too, that here are Marco's details. Marco's mobile number's there, and also his email address. Marco obviously gets a bit oversubscribed, so you may want to send a text first or something like that, but rather than just calling out of the blue. I'm sure I'll be pleased to hear from you. Marco, that's a problem with the website earlier on. Is that likely to be fixed fairly soon?
No, because I'm not actively doing business right now, so that's why it was there. So I've called the guys to fix it, so it should be on tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So if you need to, like to get in touch with Marco, just
content is really Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
And that is, if I remember correctly, it's Marco Robinson now. Yes. On Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So just remember, Marco's so very active on Instagram, so it's a great place to reach out. And we're very fortunate because Marco has been a very keen volunteer or victim, whatever you choose to call it, and very kindly agreed to contribute in a few weeks' time. So you'll be seeing Marco again. We'll think of some other really good topics to discuss, but no doubt we'll go into a little bit more detail about the film and also a little bit of the story. I know we touched at a couple of minutes before going live today about a little bit of your personal background and what led to that film being created.
Yeah, I'll tell you the full story next time we meet.
Yeah, it's going to be gripping, I can tell you, because you can tell from what Marco's shared today, he's someone who is very exotic in the way he tends to like to operate. He's got a very interesting life.
It's good to be alive every day.
Yes, no, exactly. And I can tell you, Alex has got a few stories to tell as well. So, so thank you very much for joining everyone today. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. If you did have problems with today, we'll be on YouTube with what's recording. On Facebook, we will be rebroadcasting this in about 2 hours' time on the main page. It was going out over 2 other Facebook channels today, but not one of them. So we'll be republishing that later on. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next Thursday at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Marco's staying on, Alex staying on. Yeah, Chris.
Okay,
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.